Gloria Starr here. Our session today is afternoon tea. Now I know there are tea drinkers everywhere in the world, and yes, coffee drinkers as well, so we will include a little bit for the coffee drinkers. I've set out a beautiful display, and in preparation for a lovely party, I'm wearing one of the goddess gowns from my adventures in other cultures. So I've set out numerous things to entice you. On this side of me are two beautiful gold packages filled with lovely tea from Taipei. I spent some time there a few years ago training, and I was so mesmerized by their tea and their packaging of the tea, I bought another suitcase to come home with fancy tea. You can serve tea in so many different things, but the general rule is a teapot is short and fat, and a coffee pot is tall and stout. So here I have something that would probably be more for coffee than tea. However, I'm bringing it into this session because of the teacups that we've chosen. So this could be a Moroccan tea, or it could be a very heavy Arabic coffee. So here's a great example of two teapots, very traditional in the shape of the teapot, and for this one as well. I have numerous teapots, and I simply love teapots. In front of us, near the beginning of the table, is an actual china teacup, and I have quite a few fancy teacups like this from my mother and my grandmother. And when you drink tea, the rim of the china cup is very thin, and it certainly tastes much better than if you drink it out of a mug, which is generally for coffee. So we have numerous things in front of us, and this little set here, this lovely gold set, I actually purchased in Saudi, and it's designed for a heavy cup of their coffee. So we're using different things as examples today, learning how you can combine things. On the table on this side, I have a fancy silver holder that has both the sugar and the sweetener in it. And so many times when I see people getting ready to put sugar in their tea or coffee, they will take it like this and shake it. Bang, bang, bang. None of this is appropriate. This is all far too noisy and inappropriate. So then you would quietly tear it open, enter it into your cup, and set this without crunching it, but just nicely on the side of your saucer. Then before you stir, you're going to decide just what teaspoon is appropriate. And I have several different teaspoons here, and you'll notice the different sizes, and even the fanciest teaspoon that came for this little Arabic coffee type of cup. So the balance here is going to relate to the size of the teacup and the size of the spoon. So some will actually need a longer handle in order to serve. So when you're stirring, it's a quiet stir, no tapping on the side of the lip of the teacup, and no licking of the spoon. And once you've used this spoon, of course it cannot go down onto the table. It has to go onto your saucer. Now in the, say a few generations ago, the general guideline was at a table, you leave the saucer on the table and you bring the teacup up to you. You don't go down to the teacup. The older rule also was the pinky finger, which is this finger, was out. That's no longer appropriate, and you're holding the cup like this, and you're sipping. So you don't blow on it, and you don't make any noise inappropriately. Now let's imagine it's your tea party, and what I recommend you do is you ask your guest of honor, the highest guest of honor, to do the first pour. So it would be called the first pour or the first pouring. And what I do recommend is when you have a teapot, you heat the water to almost boiling and put a couple of inches in the teapot or even the coffee pot. So you're going to open it up like this, and I recommend that you put a knife in the teapot and you pour the hot water onto the knife. That breaks the heat rather than breaking your teapot, and the knife or silverware item absorbs that heat and you will never have a broken teapot. Once that has taken the chill off the teapot, you empty that water. And to make tea properly, you never boil it. It comes to just before the boil. And there are so many kinds of teas, right from our casual everyday tea that comes in tea bags to the loose tea like this. And this is one of the utensils that you could be using to work with your loose tea. So this is a small container, and here you would set this item over your tea cup like this, and then you would pour the water in there. Lift it up slightly to drain, and then you're going to set this here so you'll have your tea leaves in this tea strainer and a little bit of extra water that would remain in those tea leaves, so keeping everything neat and tidy. There's different napkins for different things, and you could use a nice high-end tissue napkin, and you'll see that we have some colors that complement our flowers, but this is just a paper napkin. Ideally, what you would like to do is get some nice linen napkins that are about this same size, so it opens up one more time. And when you use your napkin, it's dab, dab, not like this, and you're never scrunching the napkin up, but you're setting it nicely down on the table beside you. You don't go down to the teacup, and you don't raise both the saucer and the teacup, but you're raising the teacup like this and sipping it, and again only in one place, particularly for the ladies that are wearing lipstick. And as I mentioned in a previous video, I recommend you line your lips and color them in totally with the lip liner, and then you add some fairly dry lipstick so that you don't have a lot of lip gloss coming off onto your teacup. In England, when I was there a few years ago, they asked you if you wanted your tea or your coffee black or white. And that means, of course, would you like milk? And milk is always served with tea, and cream is always served with coffee. So if you want your tea black or white, and white meaning with milk, you could have a very small pitcher of milk, something like this. And it might be 1%, 2%, it might be homogenized. But when people ask for milk with their tea, it means they're not having lemon. Because if you have lemon in your tea and the milk, of course the tea would curdle. So here what you're doing is you're going to pour this and then pass it to someone else. You cannot pass it to them this way, but you must turn it around and pass it to them like this. So this gesture that I'm doing, and I think I'll show it to you from this direction, is I take my left hand on my wrist and I do a slight bow as I hand the person the item. I look them directly in the eye and I smile. And this is a Korean gesture showing the receiver of the item, tea, coffee, juice, that I am showing and paying them the highest level of honor. So it's like this. And the regular sugar, as in loose sugar, would come into something like this with two handles, so of course you could pass it like that. We occasionally have sugar cubes, both in white and brown, and many different ways of having sugar. So have an assortment of things out. And what is a tea party without the special treats? So there's many different types of treats. There's also high-low, high tea, and low tea. So lots of choices. The more you discover about the lovely, quiet afternoon tea, the more I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So please, no more coffee mugs and no more plastic big containers. Think about everything that you say and do, because it makes a statement about you. So in our attire, dress up. In our everyday entertaining, treat yourself to a proper cup of tea or coffee. And remember, you're either average, below average, or above average. And leaders lead. Leaders never fit. Gloria Starr, the international manners and etiquette coach of the world, serving clients for the past 20 years.